these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. I don't know who's less ready this morning, me or my computer. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a frosty 5 Fact Friday. It's the last one before the budget, which Stiggy and I will be live streaming during the budget speech itself. So a live real-time reaction to the budget. We're thinking about a game of budget bingo to see which groups of society get most badly bashed. So we're going to have a budget bingo card for I mean, it's macabre gallows humor because there's not much funny about it, but all we can do is have a laugh. Yes. So quickly, every Friday, welcome to all the new followers. I'm Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Home with Charlie, where I share my 30-odd years of, first of all, in the city and then 25 years in the housing market, providing software, CRM, marketing services to the estate agency industry. And I bring you the cold, hard truth from behind the scenes of the moving industry in the hope that you're able to get your home move to happen faster. The goal here is a home for everyone, shorter transactions, and lower fall-through rates, just to make moving home easier so we can get on with our lives more easily. And I try and teach you how to avoid the tricks that agents use against you and themselves, actually, when they're doing these tricks. I keep trying to point out to them that when you do this and it results in a house not selling and it results in transactions falling through, you're not really helping yourselves either, nor your customers. But most of them don't want to listen. Some of them do, which is really, really good. And in 5 Fact Friday, it's when I report the 5 newly reported verifiable events of the last 7 days that I think have the most significant impact, either direction, up or down, good or bad, on the housing market, whether it's in the short term or the long term. And just to be quick and get through the headlines of this week's 5 Facts. So, Rightmove reports widespread month-on-month and annual asking price falls. It's been a long time since that's happened. That's fact number 1. Number 2, a national newspaper has reported that house prices won't soar again. And that is newsworthy because it's the first time I've seen a national newspaper article, and it's not behind a paywall, unusually. And it's linked in the description and the show notes below. There's a link to all the links of these stories. You can check it for yourself. Number 3 is this one here. Bloomberg reports London house price crash on the back of the ONS house price data from the day before, which is interesting. So I'm now calling them Doomberg. Welcome to the party. New house building figures released this week by the government show that the total number of homes built under Labour in the last year was lower than under the last year of the Tories, and it's actually almost half. If you wanted to measure this government's incompetence, there are many ways you can do it. Their own target set for the first year was 370,000 homes, and it's barely reached half of that target in their first year. And yet they still talk about the 1.5 million homes target like it'll actually ever happen. It's a joke. And then last but not least, the ONS continues to willfully misguide us on house price growth. And I will show you, I will prove it to you. Claiming that the house prices in the UK rose 2.6% in the last 12 months. It's an estimate. It's subject to revisions that we never report, of course, at the ONS. But it's fantasy numbers. Even Savills and Knight Frank and even Rightmove and Zoopla are saying only 1% you're going to be able to get this year at best. But, you know, what are you going to do? Who do we have here this morning? It's cold. It's a frosty Friday morning. A frosty 5 Fact Friday. Yes, good morning, lovely people, says Wild Heather. Jacek, Peter Hedich, Ashley, Purple Howl, Grasby. Anyone got any thunder snow? Mandy Spangles, hello there. Stuart Dean, Little Carol, Andy Hepburn, James Sky, Simon Lloyd, Boss Hogg, Deborah Rose. I've got a strict half-an-hour cutoff today, but if you've got any questions for me today, preferably on the topics being talked in the video, otherwise questions about your move or the housing market, maybe advanced questions on the budget, give me your questions. But please, I can't say this enough, you still don't do it, type question when you're putting a question in if you want me to see it, rather than me waiting a long time to actually go through the comments and find actual questions. Simon Lloyd says, FTSE sharply in the red again this morning, so it must be Friday. Yes. Wild Heather says, the ONS willfully mislead us on lots of things. Another propaganda outlet. Lies, downright lies and statistics. Exactly right. Okay, let's get into the actual facts. So, fact number one, Rightmove reported widespread month-on-month falls. Now, that 1.8% month-on-month drop is notable because it's one of the biggest monthly drops they've ever had. Not the biggest, but one of the biggest month-on-month price drops they've ever had. It's much bigger drop than the typical one for November, which is 1.1%. So there's always a seasonal drop in November, but that's normally 1.1%. But actually of more interest is the annual growth figure. So the average newly listed asking price of all homes on Rightmove in the 28 days leading up to their publication was 0.5% lower than the same newly listed homes a year ago. So they are comparing apples with apples, but they're just the most highly overpriced pre-price reduction apples that you can find. And just a minute on that, I'll show you the map, which is unusual because it shows that the month-on-month. So every single region on this map should be in red because every single region's got a negative price change as indicated here and here, right? Scotland, biggest month-on-month price fall of asking prices compared to last year, 3.2% down. So are we finally seeing Scotland's housing market, where house prices have been holding up better than the rest of the UK, starting to come down? And the other big prices are, so London, 2.4% down month-on-month, Southeast 2.7%, Southwest 2.5%, Wales 2.4%. The whole sort of southern half of the country is nearly a 2.5% month-on-month drop in prices. So you can see that's a big difference to the north, where it's 1.2%, 1.9%. Actually, Yorkshire and the Humber down 2.4%. And I have been with agents in the northwest this week, actually up there in person. And they were sort of very quietly going, yeah, it's very, we're estate agents, so it's very difficult to actually admit it, but prices aren't going up and the demand is not there. And even in the rental market as well, they're saying that the cost of living crisis, which hasn't hit as soon in the north as it has in the south, because the cost of living in the north is lower than the south, but it is now starting to bite. So that's from the front lines. So there we are. That's Rightmove's fact of the week. Interesting. That's the first time I've seen in the last 3 years, every single area on that map down month on month. And it's also down year on year. Right. Number two, check this out. Now this is saying what I have been saying and Stig has been saying for a long time. We're not going to see the same sort of house price growth in the coming decades as we saw in the previous one. Certainly not the coming few years, because the fundamentals have changed. And as I've been saying for a long time, it is no longer safe to assume long-term house price growth of the same magnitude as we had in the last 40 or 50 years. And I'll leave you guys to read this article yourself, but it's notable to me, not this headline, because that's not news to me. I've been saying it for a long time. It's notable that a major publication, this is the Telegraph, is putting out an article nationally written by an economist. And I'll just go straight to the last paragraph and let you guys read the rest yourself. The truth is that we are very unlikely to see those dramatic value rises happen again. Housing remains a very safe investment. No, that's not true. It's not true. So I don't agree with that particular sentence. And currently continues to be a great store of accumulated wealth for many people. No, that's not true either. That's definitely pandering to readers. But it is highly unlikely that we will ever see houses deliver the same sort of return on investment as it has over the last 50 years. The magic worked well, but it would work only once. You have been warned, those of you who think buying a house is going to make you lots of money. Right. Some good questions coming in. I will get to the questions as soon as I have finished the 5 facts. Oh, James Sky, you just watched Margin Call. What did you think of it? Right, on to the next fact. We're rushing through these today. Bloomberg reports house prices crash across London's wealthiest neighbourhoods. House prices in Kensington and Chelsea fell by almost 160 grand in the year to September, with prices of sold homes in the borough dropping 11%. That's the average of the whole borough. Okay, so some have much bigger drops, some not quite so big. Across London as a whole, home values fell by more than 10,000 in the year to September. This is the ONS's figures, right? So these are lagged. We know that they're over optimistic, and this is actually subduing what's really happening. So this is Office for National Statistics. So it's based on land registry data, but we cannot see the calculations because our not very transparent government does not give us doesn't give us any transparency into their calculations. So they cannot be scrutinized. How annoying is that? Across London as a whole, home values fell by more than £10,000. Now, again, this is unhelpful because that's combining leasehold and freehold together into the same melting pot. And as we all know, leasehold properties in London have been having an absolute shocker with very big falls on leasehold prices. And freeholds have been holding up better. But the ONS doesn't give us that data. No one that I know does. So it's impossible. You know, if you're in the flat market, you're in the flat market. If you're in the house market, you're in the house market. The two markets are doing very different things. All this data is just smushing them all together into one unhelpful average. But even smushing it all together, the average is still showing big drops across the whole of London. But again, that average home value falling by more than £10,000 in the year to September in London, there is no average London home. And there are people with terraced and semi-detached houses in the suburbs of London where they haven't dropped, and there are people with flats where they have, and there are some suburbs where actually it's done the opposite. Flats are becoming the middle, the squeezed middle, being downsized into and upsized into, and therefore, so it's all varies, but it's still nevertheless remarkable that the ONS is pointing this out. Because do you remember how many people said, "No, Charlie, you don't understand. It can't happen. It's supply and demand. There's more people, so house prices are going to go up." And those people who are saying that never stop for a minute to think that's only true if everyone's got enough money to buy a house. Oh dear, the sun in my eyes. Excuse me, guys. 1 second. So that's number 3, and that's based on the back of the ONS prices we'll get into in a minute. Number 4, fact number 4. The number of new homes per year in England falls to a near-decade low. And guys, there's a simple reason for this. It's not planning problems, because there are planning consents granted for building to start on, I think it's 200,000 places where they're not building. And the reason they're not building is because they're not selling. And the reason they're not selling is because, as I reported 3 years ago, a long list of reasons that were going to absolutely impact people's budgets and disposable income and therefore affordability on houses and interest rates, all that kind of stuff. This was a mathematically certain outcome of the events of the last couple of years. So the number of new homes added to England's housing stock each year has fallen to its lowest level for nearly a decade. This is government figures showing this. There were 190,602 new builds in the last 12-month period, according to data published by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. Now, the target, Labour's target for the first year was 370,000. 185,000 would have been half of that. So they've just squeaked in at just over 50% of their target. And it's not being reported on. Not anywhere that I've seen anyway. You know, which again, to me, is just so patronizing, rude, insulting, disingenuous, dishonest, misleading, you name it, of the government to just, I mean, the government's published this data, but when are they going to come out and say, right, we have to revise our 1.5 million? They just won't say it because they think they can't. But actually, we'd have some respect for them if they did, wouldn't we? More good questions coming. Don't forget to put question if you want to ask a question. Type the word question to start with. Otherwise, I have to read every single comment to find out if it's a question or not. Good morning, Ditchhead. Okay, and we are on to the last fact. And this is a fact that repeats itself every month. The ONS knowingly misstating year-on-year average house price growth. How do I know that it's knowingly? Because they are comparing unrevised figures from the most recent month on a very, very small sample of the market, like 8% typically. And they're comparing that price with a figure from 12 months ago that has been revised down. So if these are the two prices that they're comparing to reach this year-on-year calculation, and that one's gone down because it's been revised, but that one hasn't, that gap is the percent growth figure that they're claiming. This figure is going to get revised down as well because it's always revised down. Okay, so they announced a figure last year, and by the time this year comes around, that figure's been revised down 12 or 13 times and it's lower. But this year, when they quote this figure, they don't factor in the revision. So it is knowingly misleading. And a lot of people think, oh, well, it's government figures. It's official. It's based on land registry data. So it's absolutely accurate. No, it's not. It is not. And anyone that bothers to... And I can't get journalists to report on this. The Telegraph reported on it once a while ago at the beginning of this year, thanks to Josh Kirby. Didn't get picked up by anyone else. No one. And it's like, people see these stories, but they just don't want to believe it. They're like, no, because maybe if the truth comes out that the house prices aren't going up, maybe they really won't go up. That seems to be the mindset of people who own property. Shh, don't talk about house prices not going up. Then maybe they will have gone up. That's the only explanation I can think of. So let me just show you what I mean. And there's actually some funkiness in this anyway, because so they're saying average UK house prices increased by 2.6% to 272,000 in the 12 months to September 2025. Okay. And so that's the number, 272. Now, if you go and search for the same report a year ago, you will find that they're reporting last year the average house prices were 290. So that's £20,000 higher a year ago than now. So they're down 20 grand. That average figure is down 20 grand. Now, those of you who've been paying attention will know that at some point, I don't remember exactly when it was, but in the last 12 months, the ONS very quietly and unreportedly revised all house prices down by about 28 grand. over the last. They just went. They dialed in and they didn't give an explanation. They just went, no, we're good. We're just making a change, and they put a small press release out. It was really hard to interpret. They didn't take any questions on it. Bang. Entire house price index revised down 20, 25, 28 grand, I think it was. Nothing ever talked about it. No one ever reported it. So, and if you were to actually go and look at the more recently revised figure for a year ago, you'll find it's all just made up numbers, and you can't actually verify it. We're supposed to just believe it. They're breaking it down by country here, but it's just the calculation mix that goes into this. It doesn't make any sense. What they do is they smush, and use that word again, smush. They smush together all different property types. So flats, terraced houses, semi-detached houses, and detached houses get into one hypothetical, theoretical, typical average property, which is a combination of all of those. And it's a combination of freehold and leasehold. And it's also a combination of Scotland, Wales, England, and Northern Ireland. Just put it all together into one big thing. And then we're going to work out what the average number of bedrooms is. And then we're going to work out the average. It all makes sense to the people who created it, but we don't talk about it. And we're just expected to trust it. And I have to pick it up every month, because every month people go, oh, but the ONS says house prices went up. As if that means everyone's house prices went up. Okay, so some questions. I've got 9 minutes to take questions, less than that actually. I've got 5 minutes to take questions. Oh my God. Let me rattle through as many questions as I can. Okay. Nikki Kerr says, if all lenders start to lend 6 times salary, will this cause long-term price growth? Yes. But the government rules are that lenders are allowed to lend up to that level, but only for a small percentage of their total lending. So it's like 15% or something from memory. They're not allowed to lend everyone 6 times salary. They're allowed to lend a small number of people 6 times salary. The idea being they lend that to the poorest people on the lowest incomes, because that makes sense, right? To help them onto the property ladder. So, but yes, increasing salary multiples historically is a cause of house price growth. Not on its own. It's part of a bigger mix, but yes, that is, in isolation, all else being equal, that has an upwards impact on nominal house prices. Stuart Dean, question. Hi, Charlie. Only just started watching you. Oh, welcome to the channel. And I have a couple of rentals in East Sussex, and the prices are down over the last 2 years. Will there be any growth in the future? How can I put this? I don't know. I don't know for certain. What I say is that the only safe assumption is no, there won't be. There might be, but again, without knowing what kind of rentals they are they houses? Are they flats? Are they leasehold? Are they freehold? All of those things have a variability in them. And exactly where are they, right? Are they in Brighton, close to the station, good for commuting to London, which is where I bought my first rental investment back in 1995, just up by $7 roundabout, because that's going to do better than some other types, So I don't think it's safe to assume there's any price growth in the foreseeable future. Certainly not within this government. No chance. Generally speaking, there might be some. You might be lucky. It depends on your property type. Jonava Illvision, I think is the name of that one. Jonava Illvision on YouTube asks, question, any drop in sub 500,000 market in London? Yes. If you're talking about leaseholds, yes, very much, very big drops. If you're talking about freehold houses, so if you are in the outer London suburbs and there are houses available for less than 500,000, not so much. Rough, but this is very general, and all of you asking me for price information without saying what property type, whether it's leasehold or freehold, and the price band. So thank you for that price band. It's very, very difficult to give you even a rough answer. And guys, it's not really what you should be thinking about if you're looking to buy a home. Ditchhead says, question, Charlie, would you say buy-to-let is dead, or is it just over for leveraged buy-to-let landlords who should give it a miss? Right. If you are a experienced landlord with cash to buy properties with, you know how to buy well. In other words, you buy what's going to be a very easy to rent place. You buy it and you get it at a particularly good price because it was marketed badly by the agent and the seller, and they've just left it there for ages, so there's no one interested, and you get it cheap. So if you buy well below market value because it was marketed badly by a cheap, stupid agent, and if you buy intelligently and follow the rules about where you do and where you don't get rental properties, and if you know what the rental yields around there are, and you got a good yield, then, and by the way, if you've got a larger portfolio of properties, so at least 4 or 5, there's still a business. It's a business. It's a business that needs to be managed. It's a hands-on business. It's not an investment. Used to be, where you could just buy it, rent it out through an agent, forget about it, and you'd make a profit. Those days are gone. But if you are actually a professional that's going to run it hands-on, maintain the properties properly, choose your tenants carefully, then there will always be a market. And there are intelligent, the smarter landlords rather than the dummy landlords, who will be able to make money. But the highly leveraged private retail Lambo Instagram landlord, those days are over. God, there's lots of you're all landlords this morning. What's going on? This is this is not a property investment channel, and you're all landlords asking me questions. As a landlord, says Nikrima on YouTube, as a landlord in the Southeast, is it okay to raise my rental charges by 4% year on year? Current charges are well below market price. Right. This is not my area of deep expertise, but roughly speaking, you can charge whatever the market rate for your property is, right? So in theory, if you are well below market prices, then as long as you follow the proper procedures for doing it properly, it's now going to be Section 13, isn't it, under the new Renters' Rights Act? And as long as you're not putting it up above market value, which would render you liable to a challenge in the tribunal, and as long as you follow the procedures of how to do it, you are within your rights to raise your rent. But of course, you risk losing your tenant. If the tenant doesn't want to pay that rent, they might go. And if you have a good tenant that's paid their rent on time and looked after the property and is planned to stay long term, then it makes a lot of sense to if you are going to increase the rents, to increase them gently, enough that the tenant goes, that's not unfair. I don't feel like you're price gouging me, and I still want to stay. It is a foolish thing to do, to flush tenants out and have void periods and then have a new tenant in that might not be as good as the last one, in my opinion. Right. Okay, guys, I've gone over time. Do we have any other questions from movers? God, I've never just all you landlords here. Sarah in London says, my offer was rejected from Fairview Homes in Brentford for their save to buy scheme, even though I offered more deposit than they asked for. They still haven't sold the flat. Yeah, I think you might have dodged a bullet there, Sarah. Those schemes, when you do the numbers on those schemes, are not that great. Somebody who calls himself Piss Baby Grandad says, first time buyers are commuting right now. Only landlords watching at this hour. Yeah, well, fair enough. Echo says, question, being evicted if I don't pay over the odds for landlord's house by 30 or 40 grand, what do I do? That just sounds like a hardball negotiation, Echo. And if the landlord's hardballing you, and I don't know what the numbers are, I don't know if the landlord's asking for a fair price. I don't know, right? So I've got to just take an objective view on this. You are in a position where you can hardball back and go dig in and go, okay, fine. How long is that going to take you to evict me? You have leverage to stick to your price, or maybe meet them halfway, or whatever you want to do. But if a landlord is saying, if you don't pay the price I want, I'm going to throw you out. Well, if you don't want to go, the law protects your right to stay in that property until such time as a bailiff with a court order comes to evict you. That's going to take a very long time. Okay, so again, without offering an opinion on whether the price is fair or not, if I was a tenant negotiating with a landlord on the purchase of my property, especially given what's happening to prices, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, if you're not going to accept my offer, I'm going to sit tight until I'm evicted. Landlord will kick and squeal and scream, won't like that. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's a good or bad or ethical or unethical thing to do. It is leverage that you have, because that time will cost the landlord money. Going to court will cost the landlord money, and they might be missing as the market continues to fall. They're going to take longer and longer to get their property back, the money out of their property. So you are actually, Echo, you are in a stronger negotiating position than perhaps you might think. No, it's not 2 months' notice. Guys, I've done videos on this before. It's not, the Section 21 notice says, yes, you're going to be out in 2 months. But if you don't, nothing happens. The court process then begins. And they then have to go and apply to court. They have to follow every single process on the Section 21 procedure for the court to accept the Section 21 notice application for repossession. They then got to go back to court and get an eviction order. And it can take months to do that. And that's if you don't fight it. And I don't know whether you have grounds to fight it or not, but if you then choose to fight an eviction order, that can take even longer. So there are landlords watching this, right? How long does it take? If a tenant digs their heels in and doesn't want to be evicted, how long does it take to go through the court process? 6, 9, 12 months? It's not 2 months' notice. The Section 21 notice says you have got 2 months to be out, right? That is an effective scare tactic to say you've got to be out 2 months. But if you don't, nothing happens. The law protects your right to occupy that property until such time as a landlord has achieved or obtained a court order, a court eviction order, and bailiffs come around with that eviction order from the court. Until that day, your occupancy of that property is protected. All right. Okay. All right, guys. I'm afraid I've got to go there. I've got to call it. Everyone have a great weekend. If you're new here, please make sure you get my newsletter in your inbox every Friday by signing up mhwc.co.uk/newsletter, and make sure you watch my Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Buyers. Search for it on YouTube, you'll find it. And Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers. People telling me that, we can't find that video. I promise you, if you go to YouTube and search Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Buyers or for Sellers, you will find it. I guarantee it. Have a fantastic weekend. See you soon. Bye, guys. See you on the budget next week. Monday evening may or may not happen. I'm on the road, but Wednesday, budget time. See you then. Bye-bye, guys. Have a great weekend.